Okay, folks, we have Aristo again today, and he's going to talk to us about the way out. And I think that's a very interesting concept because many of us are looking for not a way out, but a means of correcting a terrible situation that we face here on this planet.
I don't think, well, first I'd like to say hello, everyone, and it's good to be back. But I use this title because it draws attention, because I do not mean it literally. As we talked with Ron before, out does not mean escape. It doesn't mean leaving the situation. In effect, the original title I had thought of was The Way Out is Through. So essentially, a more accurate title would be The Way Through. But I would guess that except for some intellectuals, emotionally, this is very stressful to consider for most people, maybe all of us, because we don't want to go through this shit that the world is actually throwing at us. So again, I'm speaking to an audience, and I'm wondering what the makeup of my audience is. I don't believe they're just materialistic. You're just materialistic. Shall we say, politically minded people. Like some people I've noticed, I just want my $600 paycheck. You're going to give us all free money. Where's the free money? As soon as somebody promises free money from some account of so-and-so, of some royal, some king somewhere, and who knows, people come out and viewership goes up and everybody's interested. Now, where's the money? All I want is the money to go on to the beach. A good friend of mine says, you can go to the beach and enjoy your umbrella drink for this amount of time, but then you're going to get bored. What are you going to do with this money? Oh, then I'll figure it out. Just give me the money and shut the F up, So that kind of mentality is just not going to get you through. That's it. This is the kind of person, the so-called cabal, as Ron likes to call it, and I'm sure other people do, wherever you extend it, because my version of it is kind of non-specific. It's not this in group, it's not that in group. It's more or less a conglomerate of like-minded individuals who are parasitic in nature, and who basically have no other motive in life than to be stimulated by victimizing. Now, however they call it, they rationalize it and they glorify the intellect. A lot of them do, but essentially they do so because their emotional development is seriously arrested. So much so that one is tempted to say they have no souls or psycho-emotional matrix that is evolved to any point of actually being sentient beyond certain instinctive programs. Now, when a person does not enjoy life, when life does not give to a person the part of the relationship that is fulfilling, then the person hates life. In fact, they affirm their own aliveness because they feel nothing positive. They confirm it by destroying something else. Then they feel the thrill of the kill. And the more vulnerable the prey, the higher and greater the thrill. I guess David Icke described these kinds of things when you sacrifice a child, and the fear and the hormones and the blood and drinking the blood and this and that. All of these things are probably true in a lot of contexts. They're also metaphorical. So we are dealing with something. But what I've noticed over the years is that there's an arsenal that we have, and I've tried to kind of describe it in a general way. Don't want to be dogmatic or too specific or tell people what to do. There's just too much chaos. I don't want to stimulate the muddying of the waters by those who flip out as soon as something is said that may motivate people into some kind of positive, mind frame. Because a positive mind frame leads you to positive conception, and positive conception leads you to positive planning and intuition, and positive planning and intuition leads you to positive action. Because if it's truly positive, and I don't mean positive in the New Age sense, I mean positive in the sense of life-affirming, meaningful, empowering. So when something is positive like that, it eventually leads to action, but it is not the action we have been programmed to define as such through the movies we see, through the books we read, through the conversations that are thrown at us by experts all over the place. Many of these experts are people we may admire. And because, again, we have an either or mentality, somebody must be a shill, sold out, or they must be a sage and perfect. No, people are human and they are also brainwashed. You do not have anybody in the matrix who is immune to that. Many people have moments of clarity, however, or inspirational, energies that can come through on occasion. The thing is, we like to follow the crowd. It feels good, it feels safe. The more we are stressed, the more we are prompted to follow the crowd. The more the crowd is brainwashed, the more stressed we are, the more we want to follow the crowd. We talk about individuality, so that just means we don't generally like to admit we're following the crowd. So there are many, many things that are pulling us against moving through our challenges, but there are also many things that are resources. So let's put it this way. The way out of the predicament, we want it to end. We want it to be over. We want to be outside of it, beyond it. We want to transcend it. However you place it, it means separating from the situation. Now, there are many people who have adopted a spiritual type outlook, whatever that means, or not an otherworldly one, but one beyond the matrix normal framework of logic, of materialistic reasoning. And essentially, this society, especially Western society, is officially materialistic. Scientific society claiming, okay, the existence of divinity, of a living universe hasn't been proven. It isn't really real. It's all in your head. Maybe if it's real, we cannot validate it. So we are not going to officially, say it's there. However, many people think from the heart, you might say, and feel it. And it's a natural human instinct, a natural human outlook to notice that everything is alive in some sense, religion notwithstanding. The thing is that in this reality frame, many so-called spiritual principles are misunderstood. You see, a spiritual principle, again, to use that word, is activated within us. We understand it when we transcend the intellect. And yet, most of the time, these things are communicated from the intellect and only from the intellect, using words that convince the intellect that it is actually spiritual, when it's usually nonverbal. So if you have an experience that's spiritual, it's usually nonverbal. However, you can bring the memory into the verbal intellect. You can empower the verbal intellect, and then there is inspiration. The breath of your intellect is infused with the so-called power of spirit, or of this deep mystery of existence that is actually part and parcel, or rather manifestation is part and parcel of it. So instead we have cliches. We are all one. Must ascend. Why can't we just get along? And all of these things are basically of a mentality, in my honest opinion, that even conditioned children in elementary school are taught. These you do not, or meditate, some word, a magic catchword, where nobody really knows what the fuck that means really anymore in any deeper sense. It's a whole other thing than as I've often said, than is usually described. What we describe are methods of concentration, of mindfulness, or focusing on something. Meditation has to do with consciousness, with awareness. It is not about focusing on something. It is not about quieting the mind. It is not about the technique. It is about the result. The roads lead somewhere. The meditation, so-called, is not a process. It is an outcome. It's a process outcome. It's a dynamic outcome. Let's put it that way. That's just one example. So you see, especially in times of stress, you reach within yourself and you say resourcefulness. And this resourcefulness is not a solution like we are taught to identify solutions, in the sense of I have a problem, give me the equation, I plug in the numbers, and there's a solution. And the solution is a number that I plug into my problem in real life. I transfer the theory into practice, and everything is fine. In a nutshell, you might think about things that way, and it can work in many cases, but not here. Or the other situation that you yourself have argued against, karma. You know, if you're anything bad that happens to you is all your fault. You know, you've caused it. You create your reality. So you caused everything that happened, even if you're an innocent little kid. So that is a truism. It's a spiritual truth, really. You know, but you have to understand what is you for the first. You is not your incarnate, ego-centered persona. You know, that's basically too narrow. You is an expanded, multidimensional dynamic of presence that includes many lifetimes, includes, you know, it's not just, unless you're actually open, unless your DNA is activated and all of that, you're not speaking. The person who's responsible for or the entity who's responsible for everything is not the name and the address and the person with parents. You know, that's just too narrow. That is not responsible. It is not responsible in the sense of being causal. However, it is responsible, able to respond to the situation and resolve it. And it resolves it by going through. If you have a tunnel, you're in the tunnel, you can't get out of the tunnel. You have to go through the tunnel to get out of it. But it's a state. So we are the only way, and then they say the following, well, you have to integrate everything. You're fragmented, you need to integrate. I say that. And people misunderstand it. What does integration mean? You know, it's just another, or healing. What does healing mean? Physical healing involves no effort. Really, very little effort except to make sure you are protected by getting rest, by getting, you know, proper nourishment, you know, maybe some exercise when it's appropriate, you know, doctors and stuff like that, they pump us full of medication and all these other things. So medicating and healing have been confused in our culture. So what do we mean when we say healing? Do we mean medicating, psychic medication, spiritual medication? Much of this New Age movement, as much as I am really into a lot of what it promotes, but not in that misunderstood way, as it were, or popularized way, much of it is actually taking metaphors from the Matrix and applying it to spirituality and calling it spiritual. And that's popular. And it's popular because people can relate to it. Very, very simple. You market something. If I market spirituality, nobody's going to really understand it unless they go through a process of awakening. So you're marketing it in order to give some familiarity, a little bit, something, in order for somebody, because usually people into that stuff already have the need. They have a call. They have a desire that the world I see and experience is not deep enough. Something's missing. It's meaningless to me. So I need to look for the other piece of the puzzle, for the other side of this world. I don't need to throw this side away to get to the other one. I need to experience the bigger picture completely, in myself, out of myself, everything, and thoroughly. So life is meaningful. So even if I'm immortal, imagine if I can live long and I'm healthy, but I'm bored. It's meaningless. I'm bored because it's meaningless to me. And so what are you going to do if you have all the time in the world and all the money in the world? You have to have somebody to make toys for you. You have to enslave, and that would take away from your resources because no toy is going to ever be enough. We talked about the so-called Kabbalah again, how, you know, this David Wilcock person said that, well, please forgive them because they're, oh, you know, what did you say, that they can't create? And that we can't blame them for
they're
what
not the powerful beings they pretend to be.
Exactly. They're not the
but who is?
Exactly. I mean, Are serial killers powerful beings they pretend to be? Because they can kill all these people, so we just forgive them. You can forgive them, but you still have to take care of the situation. You have to take care of business. Now, that's the practical thing. But on an esoteric level, and I apply the esoteric level because if you have a firm foundation there, the world is not separate into spiritual and physical. It is a single entity. So if you have a firm foundation there, you will attract the materialization of those spiritual aspirations in the same manner that if you have a firm foundation in materiality, you will naturally gravitate eventually to the need towards spirituality. Or if you inhibit that gravitation, you will go psychopathic. Psychopaths are anti-spiritual. They spiritualize intellect. That's what they do. The whole thing about the myth of Lucifer, as Christianity presents it, not as paganism or other forms of occultism or whatever, but as Christianity presents it in the modern world, the metaphor is one of fallen intellect. Its intellect has tried to reach the level of spirit and claim it's divine when it really is a tool of spirit or an extension of it or a grounding of it. It has a specific task or tasks. But when the intellect, because when it is empowered by spirit, can work wonders, and these wonders are much more obvious in the presence of spirit in the sense of what they can tangibly form and what they can tangibly lead to, it ends up being a dictator. So the intellect that loses its perspective and its meaning becomes a dictator. And because it loses its meaning, or the whole psyche, you know, in a human dynamic that loses its sense of meaning, it can't create anymore. And if it can't create, it can't experience the wonders of life, because creation goes both ways. I mean, creation isn't just what you make. Making and creating are two different things. Creation is also perception. So we create our reality, doesn't mean that there's nothing and we fill it up completely. No, it means we are making love with our environment by the act of perception. We are, in a sense, creating a kind of meaningful, ecstatic well-being just by participating in existence, because existence is always a form of lovemaking, and lovemaking is always creative. So these things, rather poetically, you know, as I'm expressing them, are actually resources that these matrix operators, so-called types, do not have. But however, they represent other things that we are neglecting in ourselves. They are very resourceful, as you will see. They can manipulate other resources. They can manage things. There's so many things that so-called they can do because we are inhibited from doing them unless we work for so-called them. This is not just another us, you know, them paradigm. This is basically an attitude that is alienating into, you might say, it's the attitude that genuine people have who are empathic and all of this. And then it's the attitude of these movers and shaker types that basically are divorced. They're zombies, really. But the fact is the zombie has taken over the essence. The dead have risen and they have taken over the living essence, and they are feeding upon it and turning it into more death. That's cancer. So the mystic, the esotericist says, look, man, that psychopath is your lost fragment, you know. But the misunderstanding comes along that says, oh, then forgive them and love them and treat them nice and embrace them. Yeah, but they're a cancer. You can't, they're so mutated that if you touch them, they will consume you. That's what they do. You don't grab a jellyfish, it'll sting you. You don't, you know, try to embrace the stinger of a scorpion. You know, it will pierce you, and it has venom. That is its nature. You have to change the nature of the beast. And you do that not from the beast on the outside. You do that from the inside. Why? Why would I say that when we think and we have been taught and our experience tells us that that don't work? That's just wishful thinking. Or it hasn't done anything in the past. Well, in my experience, and I've proven this to myself because I've seen it often, in many people, in everyone, in fact, that there's a point where we say, no, I refuse to face anything. That's it. I don't care, you know. And then then you have the psychopaths actually fulfilling a role. Like many people say, oh, they're the darkness that forces us to face ourselves. Well, why should there be a darkness that forces us to face ourselves? We shouldn't have to have somebody grabbing us from the back of the neck and shoving our face in the crap. We should be able to deal with what needs to be dealt with within ourselves. We should be responsible. Then, you know, and then all of these bad things happen, and people, oh, well, so it's my fault. I'm trying, I'm facing, I'm doing. Well, you know, then there needs to be a priority to see where avoidance is. But avoidance is not a sin. It's not a sin. It's not a bad thing or a good thing or whatever. Avoidance is simply something that you can see and feel and identify. And that's it. All you need to do is identify it and then reverse it slowly, gently. You have to learn how to confront the crap. You know, so yeah, another person that pisses you off is a reflection of yourself. But to say that, you know, but I hear people say, usually that conversations, it's like, oh, you know, I want to go and let's say cheat on my husband. Somebody says that because I'm hot and I feel like going out and cheating on my husband, you know, and somebody else flips out and goes, oh, you bitch, you slut, what are you doing? You know, oh, see, you're just projecting your own insecurities on me. You know? Yeah, but how about this husband guy? Yeah, I identified with him. You know, this happened to me once and it sucked. How can you claim, well, I'm a loving person? You know, it's not my fault. I'm a completely loving person. So I just want to do this. And who are you to say, who is anybody to say that I can't do this? You know, and this is, you know, these are actually examples out there. And I've been slammed all my life and I've learned to love myself. Yeah, but on the one hand, you are loving yourself. On the other hand, you want this situation, you have created a situation like a stepping stone on another person's emotions and another person's energy. And that is the definition of it, not the definition, but one form of feeding on that person, of manipulating, of using them. Where's the empathy in that? Of not understanding that person's pain if you do that. But then what do you do to yourself though? You need to get out of a situation. You need to move on or do something or whatever. So something isn't right in this whole thing. Something is not being faced because the solution is not a solution. The solution is just more entanglement, victimizing somebody, and the psychopaths are just showing us the example of that. They're victimizing all of us because that's the only way they can make it. They can actually survive. Now, I'm not going to forgive somebody for doing that because that's letting them off the hook. And to tell me that I should, you know, that I can forgive somebody without letting them off the hook, then where is my motivation to rectify the situation? Well, first of all, I don't care about forgiveness or not forgiveness with the external aspects. I can regulate my life, or I will try to regulate my life in such a way that I can slip through the cracks of all that's going on. I'm not going to move to change the world because nobody is. Everybody who has tried has either been seriously traumatized or is stressed out so much that they just want to hide in a hole. So, or they're lost in the hopium zone, you know, and we are given ample opportunities to just be in denial, to just live a fairy tale, to watch the dramas unfold, be how do you say, observers of the situation and all of this. So it's like, fine, you know, it's not feasible to actually get out and get yourself killed or whatever. But at the same time, there are psychological operations against us. And that means there is still a motivational complex within each of us that this so-called cabal fears. That's also been one of the messages I've been trying to convey. We are worth oppressing. If we were completely, who cares? You know, that's why there are, most of the population is who cares. They're actually working for the so-called cabal. Whatever the media tells them, they believe, you know, so they will react. The media or the establishment can form a mob in no time. You know, you got Soros groups who can just form a little revolution wherever they want, you know. Just fund a few people with a few signs, wave a few flags, send a few messages without trolls destroying them or knocking them down, and people will follow. Because everybody's repressed and they just want an excuse. Let's go party, let's go do something. Let's get out of this mess. But they're not moving through. They're trying to get out, And so the shepherds, the psycho-shepherds, are guiding them where they want. So
which is manipulation, of course.
Exactly, exactly. And the thing is, we need to know where we are manipulated. But again, that's intellect, and that's fine. We need to know and observe and think. But we need to essentially realize what is the real problem beyond what the Matrix teaches us. The Matrix will teach you spirituality or brand it. You know, you got these famous talk show hosts who have the spiritual books out there with all the great gurus, and everybody's like, ooh, ah, and there's the trendy guru and the yoga teacher and the this and that. And these are part of the psyops. They use legitimate, and maybe they have had, and you can get help from what they say to a certain degree, but it's all designed to hook you right back in so you don't go beyond this point where you can become dangerous. And yet some people do, but they make the leap. They have a trauma, they have something. We do have a deeper self that is moving us through. And that is something we can learn to embrace, we can call upon it. And the thing is, like I said, we are conditioned to seek solutions in terms of equations of resolution, in terms of instant gratification, in terms of pushing buttons and having results. That is not the solution that this kind of thing is. This is an embodiment solution. We have to become what we desire to experience. That's how you create your own reality. You recreate yourself, and your reality is going to follow, because ideally your reality is in a relationship with you, the reality. It is it is an extension of yourself, just like you are an extension of the reality. That is what creates reality. That is the you also that creates reality. The complex, the synthesis between the individual you and everything that reflects it in the environment. That's how a mystic will perceive everyone as aspects of themselves. It is not an isolationist thing. It doesn't divorce you from relationship. It basically allows you to understand how to make love with the world, but right now we are being divorced from that. Something is coming in and creating discord to an extreme degree, but the discord it's creating is actually something that was hidden in the situation. It's like, okay, you're in a relationship, again, that metaphor, and you're bound for a divorce. One fine day I want a divorce, but you didn't see it coming because you weren't really feeling into what was going on. Maybe you took it for granted, maybe looking the other way, maybe. But the point is, a lot of times historically, there are disasters in the world, there are crises, there are wars, there are this. People don't see them coming, even though to orchestrate something like that, it's not just a bunch of random events. So the way out is through. And the way through is with our eyes open. And to ask ourselves, how do I move here in my little local whatever, without having, and you will be challenged or maybe challenged to defy the consensus in your own way. You don't have to defy the consensus openly. You don't have to piss people off. However, a lot of people are sensitive to those who dare shift away from the matrix. They'll sniff it out. You're not who you used to be. What's going on? You're not acting like your normal you. I can smell something's not, So really, don't worry about that. Just don't have to be a hypocrite. You don't have to lie, but at the same time, it's nobody's business but yours. I believe we can discover, we are going through a very dark tunnel in my understanding. I believe many people who have had experiences now feel cut off because they have to go it alone, because they are the reference of their awakening. So outside help, so to speak, ET's God, whatever, as an outside thing is not going to allow them to awaken from within. So the previous awakenings from within that anybody had were the easy ones compared to what's going on now. And yes, you can do it, but don't rush, be patient. And because you are, for the most part, if you really want to, if you really, really feel it, even though you may feel anxiety, you may feel fear, all of these things are all right because they are moving what the collective feels and feels. You are in a relationship with your environment, so you're gonna feel crap. If your environment is crap, you're gonna feel crap. But at the same time, if you are motivated to redeem the situation, then that's going to be felt by the environment. It doesn't go to waste. Even if the matrix is going to try to convince you that it's going to waste, nothing is. Nothing is. So, take everything that I've said, look through it, examine it, see if you can find a kernel of wisdom somewhere in there. Because I believe something might be able to help you. So thank you for listening to this little rant. And till next time, namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.